Toastmaster, or to our Toastmaster, and good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. So today, I'm here to educate you, here to give you something to think about. And I'm going to start with a question. If I ask you all in this room, who has a more effective line of communication with your boss or your spouse? Which would you choose? Spouse. I hear more spouses than boss.
This boss or spouse?
Yeah. Oh, that's your boss? Okay. I love this. Love this.
Current boss. No.
Okay. So if I was going to ask myself that question and answer it, it would be my spouse. And I feel truly honored that my wife and I have such a great line of communication. We've been through so many ups, so many downs, so many tough conversations. Been together for over 7 years, so we've seen, unfortunate things and very positive things. And our entire relationship's rooted in communication. However, that changes dramatically the second we play pickleball. For some reason, when we play pickleball, we want to throw paddles at each other. We can't figure it out. We have little jabs, things that are said, and it sometimes creates a little bit of a havoc in our relationship, not quite maybe as an Iron Man, but in a sense of walking off the court after a loss, looking at each other going, what are we even doing, right? And I think when you look at why, and that's what I've asked myself is, why does this happen? It really comes down to 4 types of communication styles, okay? The first is assertive, which is where you're very direct, you're honest, and you're respectful. I would compare this to almost any conversation I would typically have with my wife. If we're gonna have a conversation, especially if it's one that's of serious nature, guess what? There's a lot of thought involved, a lot of refinement. Gonna go into the conversation knowing, okay, here's my idea, here's the plan, here's what we're gonna do, right? It's refined, it's a tall tale ask, depending on if it's a golf trip or I'm asking to go on vacation, okay? The second is aggressive. Aggressive communication tends to be driven by anger and judgment. We've all had an experience or two where we've seen some aggressive communication. Then there's passive. Often looks like you're not communicating at all. Fear to speak up. I think some people would say that they're passive communicators, which is why you come into this room. You learn to develop and grow, and it's one where we've all seen that as well. And then you have passive aggressive, where you may not directly communicate with your emotions. You seem like you're withholding items, and for that is why it's called passive aggressive. Now, what's interesting is that I started this telling you that my wife and I can speak incredibly well together. And I think why the pickleball court creates challenges is because our communication styles change. We become aggressive, become passive aggressive, may even become passive. If you've all played pickleball, you know that it can be not only a mental task, but also a physical one. And if you're playing with a partner, so you want to go far, not fast, you got to learn to communicate and work on things together. And because of those knee-jerk reactions and those small items that you may just say or do in a moment of frustration, my communication style changes. I go to passive-aggressive. I go to less of an assertive and my stereotypical type of communication to my wife. And next thing you know, I'm speaking in an aggressive tone, which she does not appreciate. So I challenge you all today with thinking of these different items to not only try to refine your speaking skills in a moment where you have a well thought out and refined approach to how you're going to deliver a conversation, but those ones that you may overlook when you're talking to a colleague in the hallway or a friend of yours asks you to do something, and you may be emotionally flustered or a little angry or something's on your mind, kind of brush it off or you say the wrong thing. Think about how that's perceived. I'll be the first one to tell you, on a working setting, I'm a get-it-done type of guy. You give me my to-do list. If I'm in my to-do list, nothing else matters. I also manage a team of 22 people. So guess what? Sometimes they have a priority, and it's my job to listen to them. I do a poor job sometimes of actually listening to that because guess what? I'm on my task list. I want to get my to-dos done. And it's a situation where you have to learn to not just have those knee-jerk responses. Because guess what? If somebody came in here today and wanted to work on something and Chris kind of blew him off because he had other things on his mind and didn't have a nice and a respectful approach to his communication, that guest may not come back here. So these are examples where in Toastmasters, our communication, when we think of what we're trying to build here, is so much of how do I deliver a speech? How do I deliver something that's super well thought out as a stupendous message, something that brings in the charisma of the room? But in reality, we should work on both sides. The little communication, the subtle ones, the knee-jerk ones. And with that, I hope you all think about that on your way home today. Thank you.